I hope this will be interactive to some degree. If you have any questions, put them in the question and answer section on your screen. And I will save some time at the end of this presentation if we have some time, but I'll try to move quickly so I can answer some of your questions. The title here, good morning. The title here is Conversion Testing Competence, Practical Strategies for Diagnosing, Testing, and Analyzing Conversion Rate Experiments. Digital marketers don't focus nearly enough on actually increasing conversion rate on their website, on their landing pages. I come from a digital advertising background, and I'm going to just move through the slides a little bit. And then we're actually going to get to some workshop resources. Before I introduce myself, because I'm going to do that shortly, this link is outdated. I'm going to post a new link to some additional handouts and downloads and slides, etc., for this workshop that you could access afterwards. Here's the link to it. So it's adventureppc.com/webinar downloads/DGZ. And I don't know if everyone could see that, but if somebody from Digital Zone could get that out to everybody, that'd be great. All right, so this page, if you check it out, has a workshop handout with a lot of raw data that we're going to cover. It has the slides. It has some resources for 5-second tests. We'll go through that. It has an additional 30-minute Google optimized video tutorial, which is a really cool software that's offered for free from Google. And it has a couple other templates that we're going to cover as well. So you could check out that link whenever you'd like and download all that stuff. So again, it's not the link you're seeing here. So who am I? I'm the founder of Adventure Media Group. We're a New York-based digital advertising agency. We work with a lot of great clients, from American Eagle, Hanes, all the way down to smaller mom and pop businesses. We work in retail. We work in B2B, B2C. We work in basically every vertical, and we apply psychological principles and data-driven methods to media buying. So we focus primarily on actually acquiring traffic to a client's app or website. I'm an online instructor, and I also have a master's degree in industrial organizational psychology. The reason why I have this picture here is not just to show my 4-year-old, who's, I think in this picture he was around 2, but if you see in the background, there's a billboard that we did for one of our clients. This is Times Square. This was like a 75-foot tall billboard, and we didn't have time to source talent. So we used my 2-year-old son as the model for the billboard, and that billboard ran in Times Square for, I think it was like 6 weeks. So that was pretty cool. So let's get into things a little bit here. What I've developed over time is what I call the marketing competence matrix. And there's lots of different ways you could look at this, but there's, to me, 3 different key columns or 3 different key categories you have to really have expertise in if you're going to run a digital campaign. And when I say digital campaign, I primarily mean digital advertising. And that's just the arena that I play in, that I know best. And those 3 pillars are, first, declarative and procedural knowledge on the left, where you have to understand your Google Ads bidding strategies, right? You have to understand reporting, exporting, auction insights. You need to know like what things are and where to do things and how things work, right? Very simple. That's declarative and procedural knowledge. Then there's salesmanship. Salesmanship is very important. I have a couple of book recommendations if you want to learn a little bit about salesmanship. The principles of persuasion, how to write copy for the web, how to write copy for ads, understanding the buyer journey, understanding the sales cycle, understanding the business, the customer psychographics, the production quality of your website, so on and so forth. And then there's experimentation, because as much as you know about how a platform works, how a media buying platform works, how a Google Ads or a Facebook ads campaign works, as much as you know about salesmanship, there's always a lot more that you don't know than what you do know, which is why experimenting is important. And that's what we're going to focus on today. Testing things, testing new ideas, testing different ways of doing something. We're going to focus on diagnostic tools and techniques, testing tools, and analysis tools. These are the 3 most important things to understand and to have a basic competency in as you're going about learning how to test and optimize for conversion rate. Before I talk about Claude Hopkins for a moment, I want to go back to something I had initially said around conversion rate. We focus a lot on click-through rate. We focus a lot on conversion rate from our ad campaign. So we spend, I don't know, we have $100 million annually, $200 million annually that we're running on behalf of our clients on Google Ads campaigns. And in Google, you see your clicks and your click-through rate and your conversion rate, so on and so forth, right? And then we try to optimize for quality score. We try to optimize for click-through rate. We try to find better keywords. We try to write our ads better. And that's all important. But agencies and clients and advertisers, they don't spend enough time trying to actually optimize their landing pages, their copy. Because if you could increase conversion rate on your website, you've drastically decreased your CPA. So if you could increase your click-through rate and your conversion at the same time, you're converting a lot more traffic without increasing the cost. That's why CRO, this idea of conversion rate optimization, is so valuable. Because if I want to go and buy more traffic, that's an additional fixed cost or variable cost of my campaign, right? With every single product I sell, or if I'm selling a service, every time I sell it, there are certain costs associated with it. So I could get more traffic to my site two ways. I could either increase my budget, get more clicks, but I could actually accomplish the exact same thing. I could get the same amount of additional clients and form submissions and sales that I would get by improving my budget or increasing my budget without increasing my budget. I could increase my conversion rate. If I increase the percentage of users who convert on my website, I increase the total amount of sales, revenue, and profit from whatever campaign I'm running. This is a great book. It's recommended reading for every employee that joins our company. Claude Hopkins, called Scientific Advertising. You can get it on Amazon. It's a white book. It's actually 2 books in one. Scientific Advertising and My Life in Advertising. Claude Hopkins he lived in the late 1800s, early 1900s. He was the father of modern advertising, and he basically invented the concept of A/B testing ads to generate more profitable results. And David Ogilvy, who is sort of like an idol of mine, I've read everything that he's written, and I recommend you read Ogilvy as well. Nobody should be allowed to have anything to do with advertising until he or she has read this book 7 times. That's what he says about Claude Hopkins. So check that book out. I don't have the video to play here because this is just a PDF version, but I'll explain to you what you're looking at. The purpose of improving your design, right? Fundamentally, it's very simple. And you have to understand the fundamental purpose, so then it's not overwhelming. It's like if you're going out to write a blog post and it's a big article and you're overwhelmed with how to start. It's like, well, what do I want to accomplish? So when you're going and looking at conversion rate optimization, before you get into the data and the science, it's very humanistic. You're trying to make your website easier and more pleasant to use. A better conversion rate for a website or for your app, it's reflective of good design. That metric is what reflects good design, typically. Of course, it could also reflect the quality of traffic coming to the page, but an increase in conversion rate with all other variables being equal reflects good design. So what you're looking at here on the right-hand side, I was staying at a hotel with my wife, this was probably already 4 years ago or so, and I walked into the bathroom in the morning and I was trying to figure out how to turn on the sink. And I couldn't turn the sink on. I couldn't find the faucet. I couldn't find the handles. And then after like 15 seconds, I realized that I was leaning over the handles. I was looking for the handles near the faucet, but the handles were in front of the sink. And I said, like, I had my wife take a video of it because I said, I need to put this in a presentation one day when I talk about conversion rate optimization, because this is a great example of poor design. In the designers maybe wanted to do something cool and different and unique, but they ended up doing nothing good. They just made it harder for me to turn my sink on in the morning, which just frustrates me. And when I'm frustrated, I'm less likely to go to this hotel again. When you give your users a frustrating experience on their website, they're less likely to stick around and they're less likely to come back. Because when I recall this stay in the hotel, I'm not going to recall the details. I'm not going to recall necessarily every little thing that produced a negative emotion. I'm just going to remember the negative emotion. That's how people work. So you don't want to do anything. You want to make sure you're avoiding negative emotions. So how do we diagnose conversion opportunities? Where do I start? I have a website. You have a website. You have 100 pages. You have one page. You have product pages. You have service pages. You have lots of places. It could be a Facebook page, a Facebook group. You have a lot of places where potential customers, people who might make you money, are exposed to your online content. So it starts with what I call clarity. We know this is not, I didn't make this up. Anybody who has studied conversion rate optimization knows there's a big focus on clarity, being clear, communicating what it is you do, communicating what it is you sell. And research has shown that it's extremely important to communicate your message within 5 to 10 seconds of a visitor landing on your webpage. It's crucial. And a couple years ago, I decided to investigate this claim a little bit because I was skeptical. And I typically approach these sort of studies with a little bit of skepticism. My question essentially was, who says? Where does this 5 to 10 second number come from? Maybe clarity is not that important. Maybe my users will dig a little bit through my site to understand what it is that I sell or do and what I have to say. Why do I have to be so clear about what it is I'm about, what my company does within 5 seconds of a user landing on the page? Why? Who said? Where does this come from? So I dug a little bit. And I found, quite interestingly, research by Chow Liu and colleagues in 2010 from the Microsoft Research Center. They provided mathematical analysis of user abandonment rates on websites. Okay, so this is pretty cool. They looked at 205,000 different web pages, and they analyzed over 2 billion dwell times. So how many times a person came to a page and they stuck around, they went to another page, over 2 billion different interactions. So I'm no statistician, but that sounds like a lot of data. And if it's good enough for the Microsoft Research Center, it should be good enough for us. So what they found was that time spent on site follows a Weibull distribution, the Weibull hazard function. Now, if you don't know what the Weibull hazard function is, you're not alone. I had no idea what it was, and I looked it up. And it's a mathematical function originally used, I forgot exactly when, I think in the early 1900s, in factories. And this algorithm, this Weibull distribution, it predicted the likelihood of any given factory part to fail at any given point in time. And the Weibull hazard function follows what's called a negative aging distribution effect, that as time goes on, the less likely a part is to fail. So it's very interesting. They found that in factories, faulty parts were more likely to fail earlier on. And as the longer a part in a factory was in service without failing, the less likely, it still had a chance of failing, but it was less likely to fail. That's called negative aging. So it's rather interesting. Here's what it looks like on a graph. So on the x-axis, we have time visiting a page so far in seconds. This was their actual data. Okay, so you have 20 seconds, 40 seconds, up to 2 minutes. On the y-axis, you have the statistical probability of a visitor leaving the page right now. So what they found was that within 0 to 5 seconds, there was a 5% likelihood of a user leaving the page. At 100 seconds, there was a 2% likelihood of the user leaving the page. This is fascinating. This means that somebody who just walked into your store is more likely to leave than someone who's been there for a minute. The statistical probability of somebody who's been there for 100 seconds is less likely to leave than a person who just walked in. And we could explain this. It makes sense. It's not just a crazy, weird anomaly. This is how the majority of the websites on the internet function. This is not how a department store functions, though, right? Let's think about the difference between a department store. Let's say, I don't know what department stores exist where all you guys are, but where we live here, we have Macy's, we have Bloomingdale's. These are the big department stores. And if you walk into Macy's, you actually have a positive aging distribution. you're less likely to leave within your first 10 seconds than you are after 2 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever it is. And that's because you're going into Macy's and you know what Macy's is. You know what this department store sells. It's not your first time there. And if it is your first time there, they have a good reputation. They're at your local mall. That's why you went. So you're not looking for reasons to leave. You don't need the first 10 seconds of your visit to be for something to be proven to you in order for you to stay. However, websites are different, and it's a great opportunity for designers. Websites primarily are bad, and users over the years since the web have developed that understanding, that paradigm, that most websites are bad. Most websites don't answer my questions. Most websites don't have the information that I'm looking for. Most websites are going to load too slowly. So we psychologically put a new website through a very strong and ruthless 5 or 10 second period triage where we make decisions as it relates to the quality and the viability of this site to serve my purpose and to answer my questions. And we do that within the first 5 seconds. That's what the research actually shows. It's not arbitrary. So if I don't understand what's going on with this website in 5 seconds, what value this website has to me, I'm out. I am not going to stick around. If I do stick around, if it is clear to me, if the website's clear, if I understand the value that the website provides, I'll stick around, and I'm actually more likely, you have a greater chance of buying an additional 2 minutes of time, which is an eternity. So if you're in this field, in the design field, and you go and you're trying to get buy-in, and you're trying to get your team to invest in conversion rate optimization and running A/B tests and running these clarity experiments, you could now tell them that it's not arbitrary. You could say that intensive research from Microsoft shows that time on site follows the negative aging distribution of the Weibull hazard function analysis. If we can communicate our value proposition within the first 5 to 10 seconds of a session, it is a statistical certainty that will increase overall time spent on site and subsequently increase conversion rate. Of course, that's a mouthful, but hopefully you'll have these slides and you could put that in your own words. But it works. This stuff is important. So how do we go about doing that? Right now that we understand a more compelling argument for clarity, let's talk about the best test as far as I'm concerned, because it's the best combination of economic value. It's cheap to run these tests. It's quick, and you actually get some substantive data from it. It's called the 5-second usability test. And when I give this presentation, typically people are not familiar. I usually ask people to raise their hand if they've ever done or have heard of the 5-second usability test. So if you've heard of it, maybe you'll learn something. But if you haven't, I certainly hope this will be something which you could incorporate into your toolbox. So the way it works is you show, and we're going to actually do a 5-second test together. The way it works is you show a screenshot of your homepage, your mock-up, a wireframe, a product page to a respondent for 5 seconds. Of course, this image on the right-hand side with Paul Rudd doesn't make any sense because it's a GIF, and the GIF is not playing right now, so just ignore it. So you show them a picture. So that could be the hero section of your homepage. It could be whatever section of whatever page you want to test clarity for. Now, typically, you want to show the users, the participants in this test, you want to show them a section of a page that they will see first when they come to your site. So it's typically the top of the page. And start with the most important pages. Start with the pages that people are coming to the most. So show the screenshot of your homepage, and you show it to them for 5 seconds, and then you take it away. You don't prep them. You just show it to them. Say, here, take a look at this image. You're going to get 5 seconds, then you take it away. Then you ask them, what do you think this company does? Very simple. What does this company do? And you could also ask, and you should ask, what does the company do? What value do they provide the customers? And you could also ask, who does this company sell to? Like, who is the target market for this company? And if you're doing a good job communicating with your headline and your subheadline and your copy and your offer and your design, if you're doing a good job, a user should be able to communicate with relative accuracy what the company does, what value they provide their customers, and who they're selling to. So in the next slide, I'm gonna hold it up for 5 seconds, and I'm gonna take it away, and I'm gonna ask you guys. I'll write up a poll what the company does. All right, so everybody pay attention. Okay, so we're gonna ask. I'm gonna make a poll here. What does all right, so there's a poll, and you guys can answer the poll. So I'm going to show you the picture one more time really quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so what does this company do? What value do they provide? And I'll wait a minute for everybody to answer their. We have some answers coming in. Okay, it looks like we're basically done with the polling, and it's fascinating. I'll give it a few more answers coming in. Okay. Only 30% of people got it right, right? That's crazy. I've showed it to you. I cheated. I showed it. First of all, I prepped you. I told you, you knew it was going to be hard. I prepped you for it, and still only 30% of people got it right, right? That means 70% of people were completely wrong after looking at this for 5-6 seconds. They were completely wrong. Actually, it's going down. People are still polling. It's only 28% got it right now. This is an actual client of ours, and this is a large company. They are the world's largest negotiating seminar, and that was their homepage, their actual homepage. Okay, so we're at 29% getting it right. They're a negotiating seminar. Could you imagine having a page where hundreds of thousands of people are coming to a month, and only 28% within 6 seconds understand what it is you do? That's bad for business. 25% of you said it's a pizza store. They don't sell pizza. They're like the furthest thing you could possibly get from selling pizza. They don't do sightseeing tours. They don't do real estate. They teach negotiating. So it's also pretty crazy how far off you could be. When I said they do pizza, 25% thought so because there's a sign in the hero image of New York City that has a pizza store in it. So this is bad. So we actually ran this test because my client, who is the CEO of Karis Negotiating, he was always very against testing. I said, let me run a test. Let me try to show you. And it's not my opinion versus your opinion. We'll look at the data. So he said, okay, run a test. So we ran a test. And let me teach you a little bit about how to analyze testing data, right? So now we got 100 people. I asked 100 people, and we put all the answers in Excel. I didn't do a multiple choice. I wanted people to free form answer in my survey. Let them talk. What do they do? So the way to do this is you export all the data into Google Sheets or Excel, and you rubricate all the answers into 3 categories. I like to do in the ballpark, dead wrong, or exactly right. So for example, if somebody answered pizza, that would be dead wrong. If they answer sells food, dead wrong. If they do negotiating programs, negotiating seminar, negotiating conference, I would give them exactly right. And in the ballpark is like, I'm not sure they appear to host a conference. So that's not really right. Yeah, they do host a conference, but it's certainly not dead wrong either. So again, negotiating tactics and seminars, exactly right. So you have to use your best judgment when you apply a rubric of right to wrong, and you could do 3 or 4. I like to just do 3. It's simpler. So here's what we had. Only 12% of people got it right. What did we get in our? We had 30%. So I bet we had 30% right, partially because you guys are smart, but also partially because you sort of knew what was coming. You knew to look a little harder for the answer. Maybe some of you cheated and looked it up. Who knows? I'm just kidding. But either way, in this test, we got 12% of people got it exactly right. So that's what I told us. So that's no good. So then I went and we just made a very quick change, right? Very simple. Same homepage. We just added a headline: the world leader in business negotiating training seminars. Didn't drastically change the page. It wasn't an expensive or time-consuming fix, right? And we reran the 5-second test to 100 new people. And again, we export all the data and you make a chart. Now, 50% of the people got it right. Now, that's still not great. It's still not great, which indicates to me that this headline needs work. It indicates to me that the page itself needs some work. Maybe it's too confusing. There might be too many competing elements. Okay, but even so, it's a 300%. It's a 317% increase in exactly right responses. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that we're going to get a 317% increase in conversion rate, but your conversion rate will go up. I guarantee it. Let me tell you a story about our website. Okay, similar idea. And this is where I had to take a taste of my own medicine. There's a long story behind our tagline, which I came up with a year or two ago, called Salesmanship in Pixels. It goes back to Albert Lasker, who was one of the pioneers in advertising. He actually worked with Claude Hopkins, or Claude Hopkins worked for him for many years, rather, in the early 1900s. And he was talking to a guy named John Kennedy, who was a copywriter, and Albert Lasker asked this guy, Kennedy, what is advertising? And Kennedy responded, salesmanship in print. So I liked that a lot. It resonated with me. So I felt that we, as a digital advertising agency, should be salesmanship in pixels, which is actually it's on my shirt. See, salesmanship in pixels. There you go. So I said, let's make that the headline of our website. And then I came in and a couple of my team said, hey, boss, that's not very clear. You're really you always talk about clarity and not being cute with your headlines. You always talk about making sure people could understand what it is you do. And now you're a hypocrite. So I said, let's run a test. So we ran a test, and only 36%, when I showed them our homepage here and I asked them what it is that we do. And by the way, keep in mind that our subheadline is pretty clear. We've helped over 450 companies around the world increase the profitability of their online advertising campaigns. But again, the subheadline is not as important and it's not read as often as the headline. So 36% of people got it right. Not very good. Not what I want to see. Then I changed to a new headline and we ran the test again. Same exact page. Nothing else changed but the headline. 100% neurotic digital advertising services. Probably shouldn't be a period there. I wonder if there is one now. But anyway, and we ran it again. 55% of people got it exactly right. And that's a 53% increase in exactly right responses. It's a better headline. It is a better headline. You might not like it as much. You might like one headline over the other. Your boss might say, no, this is cuter, this is funnier. But if fewer people are getting it right, it is a worse headline, period. It's objective. It's not up for grabs. It's not up for debate. If more people could understand what it is that you do, what it is you sell from headline B, then headline B is better, period, because it will make you more money. So that's why it's better. I mean, what else is there? It'll accomplish the goal of the website more. So think about that. Run these 5-second tests. They're very, very interesting. And just to see how dramatically it has helped us, this is data from our personal analytics account. So this is going back from June to November, and this chart is from 2019. It might actually be from 2018. It's from 2018, I believe, where over the course of June to November, our traffic stayed the same. And this is what I was telling you about in the beginning. Our traffic stayed the same, 6,500 sessions a month, around approximately, give or take a little bit. But the number of form submissions went from 45 in June to 120 in November. It almost tripled. So that's crazy. right? And we didn't do anything else drastically different. Like there was no major campaign we ran. As you could see, the main thing is the traffic, the amount of traffic we were getting to our site essentially stayed the same. The traffic sources essentially stayed the same. What changed was doing some conversion rate optimization on our website. And the homepage test was not the only thing that we did. We ran these clarity 5-second tests on a few different pages. One of them we did was on our contact page. We ran some preference tests. We did some polls. We sort of did some post-conversion feedback and surveys. We did all these things to get a sense from people if we're doing a good job managing expectations and being very clear. And if you watch the 30-minute video supplement in the link in the workshop resources, if you download that video, I walk you through the test that we did on our contact page that helped result in this almost tripling of our monthly form submissions. So where do you do these usability tests? Go to usabilityhub.com. I've used a bunch of these services. Usability Hub, I'm not affiliated with them whatsoever. I actually just had to get a refund from them because I didn't like the results. I didn't like the responses from one of my tests I did a few days ago, but they're very good to work with and we've used them a lot. So usabilityhub.com is great. I was going to do a live usability test with somebody's website here, but we don't have time. We're sort of running, I believe, into the last 10 minutes or so. So I want to give some time for questions, and I want to walk through a couple more concepts. Here's a page of a client. This is one of the large, they were spending, I don't know, $30 million a year on advertising, and they were selling portable oxygen concentrators. This was their existing page. The CEO of the company always told us that price. That's what matters. We are cheaper. What matters to our customers is price. So we were running campaigns to this page and things were going relatively well. But then we decided to run a survey where we interviewed their salespeople. So they sold these machines, these portable devices that people with COPD and other respiratory illnesses could use to help them breathe. And almost all of the machines were sold by phone. Somebody would fill out the form and a sales rep in Denver would call them. And we said, listen, like we should do our due diligence. It's always important to find out about the customer. Let's talk to the people who are actually talking to the customers, the sales team. So we interviewed about 15 of the sales members. And one of the questions we asked them was, what product features seem to be the most important feature to your customers? And price, warranty, size, weight, color, battery, we asked them all these things. Every single sales rep, look down the list, Mary, Kelly, Bradley, Jacob, Aaron, Brett, Jessica, every single one said battery life and weight. Interesting, right? Now, that doesn't mean that price is not important. That doesn't mean my client, that the CEO is wrong, that price matters. Price certainly mattered. And it was a big factor. But the CEO didn't have the complete picture. He did not give us the complete picture. He did not give us all the things that were really important to customers. And until we did this survey, and this was not rocket science. This was very easy. Anyone could do this. I actually give you this template for interviewing sales teams in the webinar handout, in the resources. So this is really easy to do. It just takes time. And it takes a way of thinking. It's like, maybe I don't have all the information. Maybe I can get smarter. Maybe I should talk to people who know more than I do and who maybe know more than the CEO of the company knows. So we just made a very simple new landing page, right? And we just put a very simple headline. Now lighter than ever with batteries that will last all day. You know, it's pretty simple. And the conversion rate went way high, went way up. So I also give you this template of how to analyze a change in conversion rate, which is great. It's really worth doing. It's really worth showing this to a client because this helped us pitch our services and helped us increase our fees. So the original copy had a cost, this was actual data, right? It had cost per conversion of $58, gave us 150 conversions a day. And then you could do it monthly, yearly, which gave us our advertising cost per day. And then our cost per conversion with new copy went to $39. And you could look at this two ways. You could say at $39, if I get the same amount of conversions, what is my monetary savings, right? So over here, I'm saving, my cost per day would be $5,800 in the new copy, $181,000 a month, or $2 million a year in advertising. And then at the bottom in the gray box, you could calculate it. So I could say with this new landing page, we're getting an $88,000 savings per month. That's insane. Just by doing an interview with your salespeople and talking about weight and battery life, you're saving $88,000 a month in ads cost at the same conversion. Or you could analyze it a different way. You could say, now that we've decreased conversion, our CPA, our cost per conversion, how many additional conversions can we get at the same cost? So if we wanted to still spend $8,700 a day or $269,000 a month, how many additional conversions could we get? 73 a day, 2,200 a month, 27,000 a year. It's like, listen, we just made this change, and now 2,200 more salespeople could come through. And then you could, of course, model that out to show how much more revenue are you getting, how much more profit are you making, just by doing a 10-minute interview and making a simple landing page using that information. It was so simple. It's so simple. It's like almost, I feel like it's cheating to even have done it, because it's so easy. Which is why I started off by saying it's a shame to miss out on these opportunities, because it's so easy. It's so straightforward. Every single person watching this has the capacity to do this stuff, right? Like this is you don't have to learn any new skills really to do this, to have saved a client $1 million a year in advertising. So the takeaways is we're looking at the competence matrix, like what sort of understanding where you need to improve your skills, the abandonment statistics, why clarity is so important, how to actually run a 5-second test. We did a 5-second test together, A/B testing with Google Optimize, that's a supplemental video, and analyzing and predicting the financial impact from improved conversion rate. And it's really worth your while. It's really worth your while to focus on improving your conversion rate and then analyzing the financial impact of a conversion rate change. And that model, which again, you also have access to in the webinar downloads, that last model, this one here, this could be used looking back or looking forward. You could actually run an experiment and see what your actual new CPA has been, or you could run this as a predictive model. You could say, what if my current CPA is $58 and you could change that to whatever it is, or it's $100 or it's $10,000. What if my CPA went down to $73? How would those results actually look on a monthly, daily, annual basis? And it's very valuable. Clients love to see that type of thing. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has. I hope this was practical and useful and fun. Let's see. I think there's a couple questions here. Let's see. Hi, Isaac. I want to know how important for you real-time customer feedback and live testings as a CRO perspective. So I think it's important. It's certainly something we incorporate, because you could get feedback through live session recordings and click maps and heat maps that you can't get through other types of analysis. Like, for example, the problem with the usability test, or the problem with a preference test where you're showing people images, right? The problem is you're showing to people who don't have the emotional framework of being on your site. So it's impossible to replicate that. When you get live user feedback, you actually are able to replicate that emotionality of a person who's actually in the market for what it is that you're selling. Another thing that I would do is what I call a post-conversion experiment, or post-conversion survey. So if somebody submits a form on your site, or somebody buys a product on your site, then you ask them. And you ask them the following question. You have a pop-up, and you could use something like Hotjar. There's a million companies that you could just plug in with JavaScript to do this. You should ask them very simply, what is it was there something that almost made you not check out today? Or was there something that almost made you not complete a form today, or not convert today? And what was it? And people who converted, people who bought from you, or people who submitted a form and are looking forward to working with you, are much, much more interested in answering a poll or a survey, and they are much more honest. How do you run the test for the website? In the first Q&A, what did you ask these questions to? How people that you know? And I think there was 50 or 100 participants in the test on each side, for each image. But go to usabilityhub.com, and through that software, you could run 5-second tests, and you could select how many people you want to answer. They will bring the panel to you. They will bring the participants to you. Do you think it is possible to increase conversion rates also with ready-made e-commerce solutions, for example, Shopify, because maybe they have some limitations? So Shopify is in a way harder. You're right, because you have less flexibility, but don't let that fool you. You still have a lot of flexibility with Shopify. First of all, testing pricing, testing your promotional calendar, testing your product descriptions, testing how many products in the catalog you're going to offer. How is your site structured? What is your checkout process? Post checkout, what are you offering? There's a lot of great Shopify apps that on the checkout page, on the cart checkout page, you could have countdown timers and use scarcity, use urgency, read up on your psychological principles. Everybody should read the book Influence by Robert Cialdini. It's a great book teaching you about the principles of persuasion that can be incorporated to even an e-commerce site like Shopify. How to know early that my PPC campaign failed to optimize or end it without losing more money. That's Hamed Mostufa. That's a whole different type of question. I don't think we have time to answer that. That's a whole presentation into itself, like how to test a PPC campaign and know when to pull the plug. All right. I think that's it. Are we good?
Yeah, we are good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this great presentation. And I think you have shared so many to-the-point examples. I think that will be really useful for our next strategies.
Thank you very much. It was very nice presenting to you guys all. Have a great afternoon and morning. And
thank you so much.
Okay, we'll be in touch. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.